Hello, welcome to Matty Loves Movies, the MLM you can trust. Today we're talking about the psychological thriller Heretic, which was just released in theaters. The film stars Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East, and it was written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Wood. You might recognize the writer and directors of this as the writers of A Quiet Place and The Boogeyman from last year. They also wrote and directed 65, also from 2023, which had such an interesting premise and a dynamic lead actor. I'm a big fan of Adam Driver. That I was able to enjoy it despite the fact that it's not a very good movie. But we're not talking about 65, we're talking about Heretic. And let's start out talking about the marketing. The marketing for this film was very, very well handled, in my opinion. The trailer only drew from the first 30-ish minutes of the film, with a couple exceptions, and it established the premise very well without revealing anything that should be kept a secret. I instantly knew that I needed to see this movie because it appeared to feature two of my absolute favorite horror elements. Religious horror, and especially like non-supernatural religious horror, and deadly games. Without spoiling anything, I do want to give a brief warning to anyone who was excited about the deadly game elements like I was. It is present in the film, but it's not as active in the plot as the trailer did seem to suggest. That didn't diminish my viewing of the film at all. But I did want to point that out and give that warning just in case that will affect somebody's viewing of it. The film itself, it opens with a bit of levity. A very funny interaction between the two female leads, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East. This levity was very much needed at the beginning of this film because it establishes who these two characters are as people. And it also gives the audience a comfortable place to start because that comfort is slowly stripped away and expertly stripped away over the next 20 minutes or so, and it's replaced with tension. Having this nice little place to start was really well done. Speaking of Thatcher and East, they are incredible in this movie. Sophie Thatcher has been on my radar over the last couple of years because she's probably my favorite character on the Showtime series Yellow Jackets, Teenage Natalie. We don't need to talk about adult Natalie right now. Her involvement was the third major selling point, along with the other two that I had mentioned before, for me when I saw this trailer. Chloe East, on the other hand, was a complete unknown to me. Yes, she was in The Fabelmans, but I didn't remember her. But man, I will now. She is really spectacular, and in a way I didn't expect because I knew the other two actors and I didn't realize that I had known her also. The range of emotions that she is able to convincingly navigate throughout this film is actually truly astounding. I should also mention that the chemistry between Thatcher and East, they complemented each other so well, playing off each other's behaviors so smoothly that one might be compelled to get them jerseys. This brings me to the other lead of this film, Hugh Grant, the last remaining limb of this three-hander. I generally don't watch or read reviews for movies that I know I'm going to watch. And I'll usually wait until after the film, but now that I'm reviewing them myself, I don't want to muddy my own waters and be influenced by someone else's opinion, so I haven't done that either for this film. But I have seen some things, some blurbs, some stuff on social media, and I keep seeing the same thing over and over again, which is Hugh Grant is playing against type. I could not disagree more. This character feels like the logical conclusion to every character Hugh Grant has ever played. He made a career playing this confident everyman who charmingly stutters through a conversation to appear humble, but believes that he is the smartest and he is smarter and better than everyone else in the room. Mr. Reed is the thesis of that character, of Hugh Grant's entire career. And let me tell you, he's never done it better. I was blown away by this performance. And again, as I said, it's not anything we haven't seen from Hugh Grant, but it felt like it felt like that same character he plays so well, just with these dimensions added that created a nuanced and complex character that really resonated with me, and I really ended up enjoying. A few years ago, I was part of a grassroots campaign. It was small, to get Toni Collette an Oscar for Hereditary. Hashtag Oscar for Tony. Or was it hashtag an Oscar for Tony? I was also part of a grassroots campaign to get Tony Danza a sandwich. Hashtag a sandwich for Tony. The Toni Collette one didn't pan out. She didn't get nominated, which really sucked. I can't say for sure if Tony Danza ever got that sandwich, but it's been years. I'm sure he's had a sandwich since then. I just don't think we can take credit for it necessarily. Anyway, it feels like it's time again to get one of those grassroots campaigns started, because it's kind of a shame that Hugh Grant won't get recognized for this role. So I need all of you to go to your social media and post this. Hashtag Hugh should grant him an Oscar nod. Let's get this grassroots campaign going. Get Hugh Grant an Oscar nod, at least a nomination. I would be fine with the statue itself, but hashtag Hugh should grant him an Oscar nod. It's interesting because this is the kind of villain you might see in like a God's Not Dead installment, but it's done with nuance, and there are no broad strokes being painted by the same brush. You know, it's not an indictment on anybody. It's not anything like that. It's just a really complex and interesting character who happens to be the foil of these religious people. He is unnerving, he is creepy, he is interesting, he's funny, he's charming, as Hugh Grant has to be, I think, contractually. Heretic asks a lot of questions. It asks a lot of questions. That's basically what this movie is. It's questions. But it doesn't ask them of the audience. It's not trying to preach. It's not trying to get the audience to question their own faith or anything about how they live their lives. It's not doing any of that, which if you're not careful, you can do in a film like this, a film that deals with religion. This movie is about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is the religion that these girls are from. And he does question it, and there is a lot happening revolving around their belief in the church. But I didn't feel, and I lived in I lived in Salt Lake City for like a month, but by no means am I an expert in this religion because I don't follow that religion. But to me, it felt like, even if they didn't get every aspect of it right or anything like that, I don't know. But even if they didn't do that, it felt like it was handled respectfully enough, where it did not feel exploitative or like they were trying to get anybody to question anything. It was just the characters asking questions of the characters, not of its audience. Now, this movie does, like I said, ask questions, and it asks them to the very last frame. As in life, some answers to the questions are not going to be satisfying. I think for me in this film, they were satisfying, but I don't imagine it's going to be satisfying for everyone. I think the questions themselves and the journey for the answer will satisfy most people, because it is the interesting thing that's happening here. Is the journey. This is a verbal action movie. There's a lot of talking to each other, and a lot of the tension that's so expertly woven into this movie is through just dialogue, just people talking to one another. And I think it's done incredibly, incredibly well. Since I am new to this space, here's a little bit about how I recommend movies. I will never recommend someone not watch a film. Even the most offensive films have an audience. If they're harmful, I might only recommend them to people who could be responsible with such a harmful film, but I will never say no one should watch something. I also know that there are some films that I'm going to love that just aren't going to be for everyone. And I had a lot of experience with this during my tenure managing a video store. Shout out to Hollywood Video, rest in peace. So when it comes to whether or not I recommend a film, I'll let you know how I feel about it and who this might appeal to. Not necessarily, yes, watch it, don't watch it, because my position is almost always going to be, yes, watch it. Watch a movie. You know, it's a movie, watch it. All that being said, I loved this movie. In a different year, this might be right at the top of my yearly list. Right now, it does crack my top 24, but this is a year where there's a lot of movies that I really, really love that have just cemented their place at the top for me. I do also think that this will have relatively mass appeal. It should. I mean, I think a lot more people should watch it than probably are. A24 is good at marketing, and their movies can do really well. I worry about the number of people that were in my theater because there weren't very many on a Friday night. But I think this movie is going to have, or can have, a mass appeal. If you're not into religious horror or can't stomach seeing women in peril, this one might not be for you. But if you are into tense, character-driven psychological horror, I recommend it. I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this movie. But yeah, that's Heretic. That's how I felt. If you like this video, give us a like and subscribe for more from Matty Loves Movies. Have you seen Heretic? What did you think? Are you interested? Have you not seen it and you're interested in seeing it? What drew you to it? Let's hear about it in the comments. Talk to me. Let's get this grassroots campaign going. Get Hugh Jackman. Oh my God.